There's something surreal about seeing the worlds of boxing, MMA, and celebrity YouTubers collide. But that's what we've got here. Jake Paul has come a long way in a very short time. This guy started his early boxing career fighting guys like KSI's little brother. You saw this thing? It was basically extremely low-level amateur boxing with professional-level pageantry.
Let's give a big shout and a big warm welcome for my man Jake. Let's go, champ!
My man looking like Ellen DeGeneres! My man looking like Ellen DeGeneres! He's mad! He's mad!
Jake won his fight, but it was against a much smaller opponent, and he got bloodied up in the process. He didn't exactly look like the next Andre Ward.
The towel has been thrown in by Deji's corner, and Jake Paul is your winner.
The big fight that night, Logan Paul versus KSI, was a draw, which set up what must have been the most anticipated rematch in boxing history. In a result that completely shook the world of 8- and 9-year-old boys, KSI won his rematch with Logan Paul. I was devastated. I tore all my Logan Paul posters off the wall. I threw all my Maverick merchandise in the trash. It was a dark day for members of the Low Gang.
Why isn't he finishing these people off?
But Logan's loss seemed to be one of the factors that kept his younger brother Jake engaged in the sport. Right after his loss, Logan told Jake he had to avenge the Paul name.
Jake took my loss harder than I did. It hurt.
Logan literally grabbed me. He goes, "You have to do everything that you possibly can to beat KSI."
In order to fight KSI, Jake would have to go through one of KSI's friends, video game YouTuber AnEsonGib.
3 years ago, I was obese. Now look at me. Pro boxer.
He's going against a mentally unstable individual. He won't outwork me.
These guys broke the record for the biggest discrepancy between the level of talent and the level of promotion in boxing history. They had a whole countdown type show, and you just realize with the right editing, you could do a countdown for pretty much anything. You could probably make a compelling countdown for 2 flies racing around a ship.
That's it.
To be fair though, Jake called the fight perfectly.
So the only thing Gib has is like his energy and like coming forward. He's gonna realize that coming forward is getting him fucking clocked. At that point, he is fucked, because then it turns into my fight.
That's exactly what happened. AnEsonGib came out like a bull, but Jake pounded him into a hamburger patty.
Gib is hurt. And now he's down again.
Following that contest, the KSI fight never materialized, sending the boxing world into a deep depression. And so Jake, who was now legitimately falling in love with the sport, moved on to bigger challenges. He fought a legit athlete in the retired basketball player Nate Robinson. Now say what you want, but at least we're now in the realm of pro athletes.
Back and he went to the side. Right.
And Jake quickly demolished the guy.
He's singing the hymns. He's trying to get Nate Robinson.
And that's when his assault on the MMA world really got rolling. It was around this time he made this atrocious call out of McGregor.
Good morning, Conor McGregor. I know you're probably beating up old dudes in a bar right now. My team sent you a $50 million offer this morning. The biggest fight offer you've ever been offered, but you're scared to fight me, Conor.
Yeah, he said some nasty things, but it kind of seemed more flattery than anything. Jake Paul has constantly followed the idea that the biggest fight on his radar is Conor McGregor. Sometimes he'll zone in on other guys like Dylan Dennis or Nate Diaz, but usually he does so with the ultimate goal of making himself what he calls
Undeniable to McGregor. And that's why I called out Conor McGregor initially. This is the road to McGregor at the end of the day.
When you consider his approach to boxing promotion and his fixation on Conor, it just seemed to me that this guy was a huge McGregor fan and was desperately looking for attention from his hero. That was my reading at the time. McGregor's #1 stan in the world of extremely low-level boxing, a Floyd McGregor hybrid copycat kind of a thing. And it seemed kind of desperate. You know, he had beaten some of the most talentless guys to ever throw a punch, and now he thinks he's the love child of Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson. He looked like a complete joke. You know, maybe before you start taking shots at McGregor's girlfriend,
She's a 4, Conor. You could do a lot better.
you try winning a fight against some actual fighters. And that's exactly what Jake Paul did do. And he did it in a very clever manner, by staying focused on the world of MMA. At that point, Jake is a long way from being able to fight a legit top boxer. All the boxers at his level are basically unknown. Whereas he can start to call out MMA guys who have huge names and actually find guys who are at or below his level. I mean, it's a simple idea, but from a promotional perspective, it was a brilliant one. Not surprisingly, he started with possibly the worst striker to ever grace the octagon, Ben Askren. And not just normal Ben Askren. Ben Askren coming straight from, like, a hip replacement or some crazy fucking surgery. One of the Paul brothers' favorite hobbies is going out in the woods looking for dead bodies to blog about, which is a fitting metaphor for his selection of Ben Askren. If Ben Askren had a boxing match with a dead body, it'd probably be a draw. You know, 2 judges call it a draw, 1 judge gives it to the dead body kind of thing. That's the level of striking we're talking about here. Dana White said he was going to bet $1 million on Ben Askren. I mean, you'd be better off backing a one-legged donkey to win the Kentucky Derby.
I'll bet $1 million
Oh, here we
that
go.
he loses this fucking fight.
He's gonna lose $1 million. I am so confident in my abilities. You know, it's free promo, so thank you, Dana.
But you know, hindsight is 20/20. Ben Askren was a pro fighter, and the only one who had faced actual skilled opposition. And he is very smart, so there was some kind of question, maybe he can somehow tie Jake up, tire him out, who knows. And critically, it was a perfect opponent to sell a fight.
You know, a guy who choked in the Olympics, a guy who choked in the UFC, and now a guy who's gonna choke against Jake Paul. I'm gonna end this guy's career as an embarrassment.
Jake, if you and I ran into each other in the back alley in Las Vegas and I wanted to
Do
do
it
a
right now
homicide,
then. Do it right now then. We're running into each other right now.
anyways, I would do a homicide on you if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Jake thinks he's a high-level boxer. I think he's fairly delusional. I guess we'll find out.
You will find out very quickly and in a violent fashion.
After an entertaining build-up, Jake went in there and demolished the guy, knocked him down in the first, and the ref waved it off.
And this one is over. Jake Paul has finished Jake motherfucker.
You a bad motherfucker.
You know, people can say that, well, he was always going to beat Ben. Askren's a terrible boxer. But if that's the case, then Jake should have steamrolled him, which is exactly what he did. He didn't scrape a decision. It wasn't a contest. He smashed Askren and put it out there that at the very least, he is levels beyond Ben. Now, that might not be saying much. There's probably Vietnam vets, you know, scarecrows. A good, strong shadow is probably levels beyond Askren. But Jake did exactly what he should have done against a fighter like Ben, delivering a quick and decisive victory.
Get my money, Jake. Get my motherfucking money, Jake.
Coming out of this, Askren was extremely embarrassed.
I will not be back again. I will not be in any sort of cage. It is unfortunate. I really did think I could do better. That was not fun. I got knocked out by Jake Paul. It's fucking embarrassing.
But realistically, this was a win for Askren. It was a big payday.
This is Ben's biggest payday of his life. He's publicly said that.
Take about $1 million home in the bank and I'm going to coach some wrestling.
I mean, think about how crazy that is. He got to cash in at the very end of his career after his surgery on a mega payday in boxing. Nobody thought anyone would ever pay to see Askren putting on 16-ounce gloves, unless it was some kind of circus of the unusual, Askren versus a fucking kangaroo. So yeah, he lost the fight, but overall, he's just not a striker. He could easily look at the whole thing as an unexpected win at the end of his career. The same, however, cannot be said of his next opponent. The rivalry with Jake Paul was a disaster for Tyron Woodley. The only upside was the money. Other than that, it was a catastrophe. One of the more interesting things in the build-up was that they had a tattoo bet, and Jake seemed supremely confident here.
If I beat you, you have to get I Love Jake Paul tattooed on you. But if you beat me, I get I Love Tyron Woodley tattooed on me. Are you confident or not?
What y'all think?
Bro, this guy has no fucking confidence. Deal or no deal?
Deal.
Can we shake on it?
At this point, he's really getting into the swing of the whole thing. His early call-outs were pathetic, but for me, he kind of got into his stride in the Woodley fights.
Just like I turned Nate Robinson into a floor mat, I'm gonna turn you into fucking
Nate Robinson plays basketball. He shoot 3 points and slam dunk.
Hey, Jake.
I knock people out for a living.
Coaches. Who is your coach? Is it Pedro Diaz? Is it Eric Brown? Is it Floyd Mayweather? You're bouncing around coaches like you do baby mamas. How many kids you got?
Brother,
You're 39 years old trying to become a rapper.
Are you serious?
You're trying to become a rapper.
Have you saw yourself?
Now, Woodley's not exactly a boxer, but he was a very effective striker in MMA. He was a serious athlete, and he has massive power. So I thought, he can do this. You know, he can get this done.
It's not going. I'm not just gonna walk out there and swing 2 punches and everybody think I'm knocking him out in 2 minutes. This is a real fucking fight. I'm training like I'm fighting Mike Tyson. So don't fall for the BS. Oh, I'm dizzy. Oh, this is da. No, this is a fight. You want to fight me? You sign the line. It's war.
But Jake prevailed. It was a boring fight. The highlight being that Woodley did catch him.
Pushing him against the ropes. Could you call that a knockdown? I don't know.
But failed to follow up, and Jake coasted to a split decision.
The problem child.
This was not a terrible outcome. Woodley's not a boxer, he's past his prime, and he still had the best moment of the fight. But this is where things went from bad to just straight up terrible for Woodley. Initially, Tyron didn't get the tattoo, but he started campaigning for the rematch right away.
The Fury ain't gonna do that. Of course I want a rematch. I felt like I won the fight.
Hey, look, of course he wants the payday.
I don't want the payday. I want to fight.
You had your opportunity. You had your opportunity.
Jake said, look, if you wanted the bet, I'd give you the rematch.
If he would have gotten the tattoo, like now, that clip goes viral.
You might have had to, but
yeah. But he fucked up.
And so Woodley just runs out and gets the tattoo.
You got 5 seconds to get your little screen grab off.
This is my official response to Tyron Woodley getting the tattoo.
I mean, look at his smirk here. And critically, he's not holding a contract, because by then, Jake had already moved on. This was salt in the wound. Woodley was looking and sounding desperate. Then the amazing happened. Jake's next opponent pulled out, and Woodley gets another shot as a late replacement. Jake not only beat Woodley, he buried him in a way that only certain types of trash talkers and personalities can bury you. A year or two earlier, Jake's trash talking was laughable. Now it was legitimately interesting, and for Woodley, devastating. The seemingly ridiculous call-outs of guys like McGregor and Diaz, they no longer seem so ridiculous.
18 months ago when I said I wanted to fight Conor, people laughed at me. Now I'm laughing at Conor, and he needs Jake Paul more than I need him. You know, Dustin Poirier defeated this man. Dustin Poirier is an amazing fighter, don't get me wrong, an amazing guy, but he's 5'9", 155 pounds. I'm 6'1", 200. And so Conor McGregor would not stand a chance.
There's obviously one more front on which Jake has declared war. Eddie Hearn once said that Jake Paul is great for boxing, but terrible for MMA. What he really meant was that Jake Paul was terrible for Dana White. Massive headache, constant thorn in his side. As I said, Jake's decision to pick on MMA fighters to get his career rolling was brilliant, and so is his beef with Dana White. It has been free publicity. And in that war of words, he found the exact thing where Dana is totally vulnerable. Fight or pay. Jake knows all the facts. He's got a huge platform, and he's not at all beholden to Dana White. As a consequence, he is winning on that front.
This is a 3-fight deal. $12K a fight. Just sign on the dotted line, or no one's gonna know who you are.
Dana lacking infrastructure. That bald bitch should have stayed a kickbox instructor. Goldman Sachs just came out with a study that UFC fighters get 10% of their earnings. You know, other leagues like the NBA, the NFL, they get 50%. You bankrupt. Fertitta's went and pulled you out the dumpster. Bragging about winning $7 million on blackjack while his fighters are starting GoFundMe pages. They done got the problem child rapping now. You about to witness Dana tapping out.
Now, Dana has a black belt in shit-talking. He's been practicing basically every day for decades. He probably started talking shit when he was a small child. His first words, "Shut up, you fucking goof." And so he's tried to do the same, hit Jake where he's vulnerable, his opposition. But one of the things Dana has said is that one name has been conspicuously absent from Jake's callouts.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the fight announcement you have all been waiting for, and I usually have to sell my fights. I usually have to do all of the work, but this time, Dana White, Conor McGregor's dad, is promoting the fight for me. Thank you.
Anderson Silva. We honestly need to start talking again about this guy as the GOAT. I fucking guarantee you this. You ain't gonna see Jake Paul calling Anderson Silva out. That I fucking promise you. He's his size, and he's actually good.
The kid out?
Hey, Jake. Anderson's out. Jake? Jake? Jake?
Dana? 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 Guess who?
Now, I normally don't agree with Dana White, but he is right. Anderson Silva is literally the greatest MMA fighter of all time and one of the most versatile fighters in the history of combat sports.
Anderson Silva also come from that MMA side, but always had boxing in his
He's a striker first.
But you also need,
he's a striker
but you also need to keep it like a balancing act here, whether you're playing. I think Anderson is too good.
But it's time to dive into the deep end, put it all on the line, and give the people what they want. Joe Rogan, Dana White, and many of the other MMA experts have named Anderson Silva the greatest MMA fighter of all time. Anderson holds the UFC record for the longest title reign in the history of the sport, 2,457 days. And he holds the record for the most UFC victories in a row, which is 16. Most knockouts in UFC title fights, most finishes in UFC title fights, most knockouts by division, most knockdowns in career title belts, most significant strikes landed. This guy's accolades are fucking crazy. It's an absolute honor to be sharing the ring with such a legend like Anderson Silva, but only one of us can walk out as a winner, and I believe it's gonna be me.
So in terms of Dana White, when Jake has gone on the offensive with regards fighter pay, he's winning that argument. When Dana goes in the offensive about Jake's opposition, even just by signing the Anderson fight, Jake is winning on that front too. There's nothing Dana can say after that fight got announced.
If he's really fighting Anderson Silva, if that's true, it's about time. Yeah, he's got a real fight in his hands there.
You know, all Dana can do is hope Anderson gets it done. But for MMA fans, I don't know how much the Jake Paul versus MMA narrative has had legs, and that too personally. And with regards to his beef with Dana, most people would probably agree he's highlighting an important issue, and he's using his voice where a lot of fighters can't use theirs.
A lot of people are scared of Dana White. I don't give a shit.
So for MMA fans, there hasn't really been a real meaningful collision, but he made impossible things look easy. The guy was magic. Every longtime MMA fan is gonna have incredible memories of watching that guy chisel his name into the history books. So nobody is gonna wanna see an old legend like that getting knocked out by Jake Paul. Gimme a fucking break.
The most exciting fight spectacle of the year, Jake Paul, Anderson Silva.
And although he's 47 and far from his prime in MMA, Anderson has had something of a revival in boxing. He knocked out Tito inside 90 seconds. That's not a big deal, but still a devastating KO. And as recently as last year, he outpointed Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Who knows how seriously Chavez took that? But Anderson looked great. He looked sharp as shit. He was toying with Julio at times. I mean, Chavez is a former world champion from an amazing boxing family. That has got to be one of the best boxing wins from an accomplished mixed martial artist ever. And it wasn't a knockout. He dominated over 10 rounds. Jake is not fighting a defenseless old legend here. Far from it.
Goes out, beats Chavez Jr. in a boxing match, and knocks Tito out in 40 seconds. Anderson Silva might actually be the GOAT of combat sports.
So yeah, Jake has got a lot of mileage out of picking on MMA, but it never really dragged me in. A lot of it was either indifference or even support. But now he's facing a fighter who is a total legend of the sport. One who I couldn't bear to see lose to Jake Paul. The whole idea is repulsive. On top of that, Anderson is both big enough and talented enough that I feel he really should beat Jake here. All the credit to Jake for even making the fight. But with that said, I'll be tuning in, praying to the old gods and the new, all the gods that we know about, that Anderson goes in there and smashes the fuck out of his ass. Because for the first time, for me, this does feel like Jake versus MMA. And I'd like to see MMA win this one.
You fuck with me!
And I love a challenge. You know, I grew up idolizing this guy. I love the challenge. This is my toughest fight yet, and I'm prepared.